This looks ridiculous, but this tarp saves thousands of dollars a year. Hi everyone, we're going to do a little introduction on how this pond, which is a saltwater pool, actually works and why we keep it covered. So we have this covered from about early September through about early May. During that time it's covered by this tarp, which we'll go over here in a minute. But the reason we keep it covered is that you want to keep as much of the debris out as possible, out of the water. You see all the leaves, that are in the water from all of these trees. So in the late summer, they start to, fall, and then you don't really want them ending up in the water. The problem with that is when you open the pond in the springtime, you're going to have a really hard time in keeping the water sanitized. You want that chlorine to go and sanitize the pool by killing off any microbes that may be in there. But if you have the leaves in the water, then the chlorine is going to be used up to essentially kill the leaves and sticks and what else, what other debris might be in there. So you want all of that chlorine to be used in killing off microbes. And so that's how you keep really any pool clean, is to get it sanitized with chlorine. And so you want that, and that's what you're going to do to keep the water nice and clear. So algae likes to build up pretty early in the season, so there are many things we can do to prevent that from happening. So one thing we found is, just opening it earlier than we did. So we used to open it in June, and that was actually a little bit too late in the season. By that time the weather was warmer and the water heated up under the tarp, and that allowed for algae to grow. Algae can start growing as on the rocks and in the water as low as about 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. So it doesn't take much for that to happen. So we found that opening it up in early May is a really huge benefit, because if we can open it and have really no algae, it makes a big difference, and you can start swimming earlier, and there's a lot less maintenance in having to clean all that algae off. And then again, the chlorine can be used to keep the water sanitized, which is what ideally you want in a good saltwater pool. So, and then the other thing is we used to use a lighter colored tarp, one that was white. The problem with that is sunlight will penetrate that pretty easily and will allow algae to grow much faster. So what you want is a darker tarp like this one. This is a dark green on top and black on the bottom, so you can see that. So that's a black underneath. So we did find that really reduces how much algae is building up. And that's, again, what you really want, is to reduce as much algae buildup as possible at the start of the year. This tarp particularly, we can, you can reuse it multiple times. I think this one we've used, this is our third or fourth season with it already. It's a heavy duty tarp. It's made by Core Tarps. It's 50 by 70 feet, corner to corner. And we bought it on Amazon. It's about 10 mils thick. There are other ones that are even thicker than this one. This one works pretty well, the 10 mil version. I feel like the other one, I think they make a 20 mil version as well, which might be really heavy to move. This one weighs about 95 pounds when folded, and makes it a little bit more manageable in moving around. I believe it's made of polyethylene. So it does have some tie downs, which are, I'll show you here, every 24 inches there are tie downs. Now they go all the way around, and so as far as how to keep the tarp down, there's multiple things you could do. So in this case, we're using these long bolts. You can come up with your own creative method, but this is what we had come up with. It's a long bolt with a head, and so you can use that. It goes all the way down. So that goes all the way around. Now the other thing that we have done as well are these water bags that you can use. We've had kind of mixed success with that, and I'll show you what those look like over here. These water bags are to be placed in areas where you might not be able to get a bolt in or other hardware, and that is essentially right here. So these are water bags. They're specifically meant as a weight in areas like pools. So you can fill them up right here at the end, and you fill them up with water in the fall and put them in different areas. These are to make sure that the tarp doesn't blow off in certain areas or raise up too much in different areas where, again, you might not be able to put a hardware tarp tie down or something along the edge. Alrighty. So the water, as far as like the snow, whether or not there's an issue with snow building up on top, we do get quite a bit of snow here, and the snow does collect, around the edges and in the center. As that snow melts, we just let it melt in the center here. We don't remove the snow. You can't safely walk on top of the tarp in the center there, because salt water doesn't freeze as easily as regular pool water that's not salt water. So you don't want to go out there walking even on cold. If it's been really cold, it's just not safe. So in this case, we just let the water melt, and then we use a special pump to get the water off of the center. And as far as how to do that, first we'll cover how do we get all this debris out, right? Because if you just pump out the water, but you leave the debris in the center, then when you take the tarp off, some of that debris is going to end up in the water, and you don't want that. So ideally what I do now, if anybody has any other creative ideas, is I use a leaf net, a pool leaf net. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, but that does help in getting all of the debris like leaves and sticks out before pumping out the water. So here's what that looks like. Again, nothing fancy. You can get this at pretty much any pool store or online. But these leaf nets are great in getting all of that debris out. Because again, before you start pumping out the water, ideally you want some of that or most of that debris out of there. All right, so once the debris is removed, then it's time to remove the water. So to remove the water, I use a pool pump, and you can use various kinds. You can get them online, Amazon. We've had really good luck with this one. This one is called the Little Giant. It's a 1700 model, Little Giant brand right there. Works really well. I think it's like a 1/3 horsepower, but it has a hose that runs that way, and then to get it across is kind of neat. So I ended up tying these pieces of rope and essentially stretch out a piece of rope that will then take the pump and drag it along the edge all the way into the center. And then the other piece of rope will stay on this side. And then if you do want to move the tarp up or down in either direction, you can just move the rope and that pump will relocate to wherever you want. So you can pump out the water. It does pump it out relatively quickly. I think it's like 600 gallons an hour or something. So it works pretty well. Been pretty happy with it. I think this might be our second one in 8 years. So they do last a decent amount of time. Other than that, we've thought of other creative ways to potentially keep the debris out. Thought about maybe using leaf nets stretched out. That would be an option. Probably would be pretty expensive. Those, can't imagine, they're very durable. And then I'm guessing they would probably still allow some debris to fall through. So you probably still need some kind of cover system. I'm sorry, a tarp to keep most of the debris out. Again, the key is to keep as much debris out as possible. And then once the tarp is off, well, let's go actually discuss how to get the tarp off. So the tarp, I would typically recommend having 2 people to remove the tarp. All right. And so when it's time to remove it, we go around and remove all of the hardware holding it down along the sides. And then what we do is called the fan method. So there's a bunch of ways you can use to remove the tarp. So this is a huge one, it's 50 by 70 feet. And so what we do is we use the fan method, which requires ideally 2 people. It'd be pretty difficult to do it with one. But you have one person standing right here, and then another person on the other edge, on the other side over there. And then you grab about 5 feet or so of the tarp from this side, and then you drag it from here to the corner. And then you grab the next 5 feet or so of tarp and you drag it to the corner. And then you just keep stacking it from here on top. And then in the end, you'll end up with this kind of long stretch of tarp, which then makes it really easy to kind of maneuver out of here. And then we take, once it's all rolled up on the side here like that, kind of stacked on top of each other, then we take that corner, bring it all the way over here, and then, so now it's in half, and then we take that side, bring it over to this side, and then we kind of roll it up. And then it makes it much easier to unroll in the fall, and then you kind of follow in the same process. When unrolling in the fall, it makes it a lot easier with the fan method. You just essentially grab right here, and then you just pull it, and as you go, that way it unfolds from here, and then it's just easier to just pull that right across. It takes just a few minutes to get this covered up. So other than that, 1 year, fun note, 1 year we ended up not covering the pond, and we were able to skate on it without the tarp on it. The problem with that, the next year, once we did open it up, it was kind of a nightmare. There's just so much debris in the pool. So we ended up having to clean all that, and just made for a lot more maintenance than just keeping the cover on. I believe that's it. I'll be making more content and follow along. Thank you.